our next session explores expanding access to pediatric imaging with technical innovation and enhanced patient experience. We have together with us our next speaker, Stalder from Siemens Healthineers, and he will share his valuable insights.
Hello. All right, thank you. It's fantastic to be here today. I'm one of the few folks dedicated on pediatrics within a larger company like Siemens Healthineers, and I can relate to a lot of the challenges we've been discussing this morning. For example, just like competing with adults' application to get innovation funding, that's very same problem I'm having on a daily basis. So today I want to tell you the story, and this story is how innovation, both from a technical perspective, but actually so important from a patient experience perspective, are currently changing pediatric imaging. And for that, I will take one modality as a leading example, but it applies to more modality. And I will take MRI as an example. So if you're not familiar, this is what an MRI looks like. So you have like a big magnet. This is for magnetic resonance imaging. And you have some antennas in there. They will measure like some signal from the body. And what does it mean for a patient? That means it's non-invasive, it's painless, it's no radiation, no X-rays in there, but it's loud, long, and challenging for some patients, especially for kids. So let's start with some numbers. We were having the first number already a couple of times this morning. A quarter of the world population is below 15. But when you look at the MR examination performed in this population, this only accounts for 3.5% of the MR examinations. So you see there's a great imbalance here. Here this imbalance has two reasons. The first one is a regional imbalance. The poorer countries have more kids, they have a lower MRI density. So that's one of the problems. The other aspect is, even if you look within countries, even if you look within richer countries, the kids simply get much less MR examinations than adults. And if you look at UK, France, and the US, here you can see the number of MRI exams per year for 1,000 inhabitants, in children in orange and for all ages in green. And you can see that children in these rich countries get about 5 to 8 times less MR examinations than adults. And I think here in this audience, you all know all the problem of the adults and of the kids, and you know the problem of the access to care for them. But in some other rounds, I really need to justify, because some will tell me, oh, the kids are just healthier. They do not need to get these MR examinations. And it's hard to really show with numbers. But if you look at this disability adjusted life years lost estimates, you can see that the kids between 0 and 9 years are actually they have a comparable daily compared to the population between 25 and 49 years. So it's not that the kids are just much healthier, they do not need these examinations. Actually, there's another reasons behind this. And this is what I call the pediatric MRI vicious circle. And it really all started when you look back at the technology a few years ago. The MRI examinations, they were long, they still are long often. That means the kids cannot stay calm for this duration. That means the consequences, you need to perform sedation or anesthesia to scan these kids. You're automatically reducing the benefit of a risk ratio because of this sedation. And eventually that means there's fewer MRI cases that are scanned, and you only do this for the most severe cases that absolutely need these MRI examinations. And these are as well the more challenging scans that take in turn longer to scan. So all this leads to this vicious circle, and it means there's fewer MRI examinations in kids and a worsened access to MRI for kids today. And this was completely true in the past, and this is unfortunately still a reality in many places, in many countries, but this is still valid today. And let's look at two MRI systems, one from 20 years ago and one from today. And if you just look at these pictures, you will say it looks very similar, actually. You still have like one big magnet. You have a patient table, you have some buttons to control this table, you have some screen, smaller or larger, but the design changed, but it really looks very similar. But it's a bit like underestimating what happened in the back in the technology change in these last 20 years. And just taking one example as comparison, look like the first iPhone and iPhone today, it's the same touchscreen, camera, some application, you can surf on internet. But what's happened in the back has really been a game changer. And nowadays, for example, cameras, our traditional cameras have almost disappeared because everyone is using their cell phone for that. So if we look at the MRI, it's a bit similar. And here, looking at these two systems back 20 years ago, the Avento system, and it was a revolutionary system for its time. It's been a bestseller for more than 1 decade. And when it was introduced, we were like advertising 12-minute net imaging time. And that was really fantastic for a basic brain examination here. Not something complex, something very basic. But today, with a lot of innovations that happen in between, like a trend toward higher field strength, that means more strength of the system, or using more channel coils, just like in your camera, you have more megapixels. We are using more channels in measuring the signal in the MRI. That means better images, and as well acceleration techniques. And the latest one being AI-based reconstruction techniques are really helping to drive to be much, much faster today. And today, we are doing this advertisement with 2-minute net imaging time. So you really see this factor 6 in the change we roughly had. I mean, this is not one-to-one comparison, but it's really wanting to show you what's the trend. And it's not only with my company, it's like all the companies are trying to follow this trend. We are no more where MRI was 20 years ago. And this is really a game changer for kids. But technology alone is not enough when you're working with kids. And there has been a lot of things happening on the patient experience side, on the innovations. And it's really started around 2016 when the FDA issued a warning against using sedation in younger kids due to some concerns of our brain development issues. And they didn't say you cannot do it, you should not do it, but they said you need to weigh the risk and benefits by doing that. And this triggered a lot of research and activities about what strategy you can take to get an MRI with kids without using sedations. And people have been extremely creative, they're really developing some best practices of how to perform that. And just to show a few examples, this starts like before the examination, where the kids are still at home with some book, audio books, videos, to educate the kid, to introduce MRI in a playful way, in a fun way, but to educate the parents as well, because they play a very important role. This continues when the kids arrive at the hospital and before the examination with having, for example, some mock-up system, here a small one, but some are like larger, or even some hospitals are using like full-size replicas of an MRI system so that you can introduce the MRI in a fun way. The kid can play with it, can see what it looks like, and get less scared eventually. Even during the examination, like making this MRI like looks nicer, nice decoration, appealing stuff for the kids. These are all essential stuff. And on one thing, that's this images down there, having an audio-video entertainment system that the kid can watch their cartoon while doing the MRI examination. It's really like fantastic. There are small things, but there's really like a game changer. And after like giving a reward for the kids, that's for example. All this is really like having a patient or like family-centered communication that's really like essential at making this successful. But it's working, and all this publication is showing this working, on more and more hospitals are following this way. That means we have this vicious circle with the long MR scans. The assumption kids cannot stay calm for this duration. So now it's no more really valid anymore. So the MRI scans do not need to be always very long. And with good preparations, the kids can stay quiet for the duration of this MR examination. That's not going to be always true. There are some kids, some age categories between 1 and 3 where it's very difficult. Some kids that have some development challenges, that's going to be very difficult. It's not going to be always true, but this can be broken in for many, many kids. And that's turned this vicious circle into a virtuous circle where these MR examinations are fast, That means the kids can stay calm because we prepare them nicely. They have a nice environment for the scanners. They don't need this anesthesia or sedation anymore. And that leads to a higher benefit over risk ratio. And that means that more kids can benefit from an MRI. So the situations where a kid hurt his knee and the parents start to think with the pediatricians, should I get an MRI system or this, or let's just wait and see, maybe there's no complications. They start to say, oh, let's do it. Now we know that our hospital can reliably perform MRI in 6-year-old kid without sedation. That's really a game changer. And that leads to an easier patient mix for the hospital doing this MRI, and which, again, establish that this is possible to do a faster MRI exam. So at the end, it's better for kids because they get no sedations. It allows better access to MRI because more kids get a chance to get an MRI. And all this is cheaper, actually, because the sedation team is really, really expensive. This started already a few years ago, but Boston Children's Hospital is, for example, really one of the pioneers in these directions. And they have been able to reduce their sedation rate from 55% back in 2007. That means most of the kids in a lower age were just getting sedations, to 15% in 2020. And that's really a huge, huge change. And without going so far away, this is like a smaller hospital in Germany. They only have one MRI system. They always had only one MRI system. And you can see when they started to shift toward non-sedated MRI around 2019, they really were able to increase a lot the number of kids they could scan with this one very same MRI system. And all of this is, if you look on the right side, the black, you see that the sedated kids, they remain constant all the time, but all the growth was with having non-sedated kids where you can be more efficient and scan more kids and have more kids that have an indication for MRI. And another great example is Finland, and they have some great statistics, and they could show that between 2008 and 2018, they were able to multiply by 3 the number of MRI examinations in kids. And that's a lot of this is related to performing non-sedated examinations too. So with that, I would like to come to conclusions. So I hope I could show you that really innovations, both on the technological side, but equally important on the patient experience side, are really driving this deep change in pediatric imaging, where it's moving toward a sedation-free modality. It's better for kids, allow better access to MRI for kids, and at lower cost. It still brings some challenges. It really needs trained staff. You need staff that get used to do this, to perform this without sedation. That's not easy. It needs sometimes some additional infrastructure, not like an additional MRI system, but just like this audio-video entertainment systems. That really makes wonder. It needs new workflows, and that's really a big challenge. A lot of hospitals still have workflows from 10 or 15 years ago, and it's really hard to change them. It needs educating the referrers. If the referral doctors do not know about this, they don't send kids. And it needs new reimbursement rules as well. And this is very, very hard to change. But unfortunately, in many countries, we still have the situation where an hospital will get some reimbursement to perform a sedation. They will get money for that. But they will get no money to invest in an audio-video TV for the scanner, or to spend more time with the kids to prepare them to be able to run an MRI without sedation. It's cheaper for the healthcare system, but some countries, the hospitals are losing money by doing this. This is really a problem. And with that, if some of you are interested, we have some pediatric experience resources, multimodality. You can just Google for this or scan this QR code, and thanks for your attention.